Yo, what is going on guys? Welcome back to another GTA 5 video. So as I'm sure most of you guys are aware, we are right around the corner from the brand new Summre DLC, and a bunch of the community are wondering what Rockstar Games have up their sleeve, as they haven't made any official announcement yet as to what we can expect. The community have a few good ideas, and there's a bunch of different rumours floating around that we could be seeing Michael DeSanta returning in some form of movie theatre style DLC, which would make perfect sense, and I've already made a video talking more in detail about that, as Rockstar Games always love to reference famous movies in the game. There is a massive movie theatre property that has never been used in online that Rockstar Games only added a brand new interior for last year. However, on top of all that, some of the most credible data miners in the GTA 5 community have pretty much hinted that this will be a thing. Just like we seen Franklin return with the Contract DLC, we should be seeing Michael DeSanta featured in online in some way, shape or form. However, one thing that has been consistent with Rockstar Games and every single update, whether this is a summer update or a winter update, is that they have gone ahead and included a bunch of police or cop items with every single DLC. So going back to 2023 with the Chop Shop DLC, whilst the Chop Shop DLC was based around having a salvage yard business, nothing to do with being a police officer, Rockstar Games went ahead and released a bunch of police or cop themed content with this update. Of course, they included a bunch of new police vehicles, as well as the Clock and Bell farm raid, which for the first time was a heist where you guys had to take up the role as a police officer working with Vincent Effenberger. And of course, we knew that these police vehicles and this mini heist were created originally for the COPS N CROOKS DLC. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the following year with the Bottom Dollar Bounties DLC, Rockstar Games released a bail enforcement business, which some would argue is very similar to being a police officer. However, technically this still wasn't a police or COPS N CROOKS DLC, yet we received more police cars, and this time we received police dispatch work, which once again we was working with Vincent Effenberger. Rockstar Games also added some police weapons with this DLC in the form of the stun baton, and also the animation of arresting the player that you guys see once you go ahead and apprehend them as a target when completing a bail bounty mission. So a bunch of content was also snuck in with this DLC from the COPS N CROOKS update. However, the most recent one, the Agents of Sabotage DLC, of course, agents, once again, very similar to being a police officer, just like a bail enforcement. You're kind of on the opposite side of being a criminal. And these of course introduced FIB file missions, which once again we do know with the original COPS N CROOKS DLC, there was going to be police department missions, FIB missions and CAI missions. Of course, the FIB is based off the FBI in real life, and the CAI is based off the CIA. Two big departments that of course are part of the law enforcement side of things rather than being part of the criminals. However, the FIB files weren't the only thing included from the COPS N CROOKS DLC. Once again, we got more work with Vincent Effenberger in the form of dispatch missions with even more police vehicles. However, Rockstar Games also added in the police outfits, which I was telling you guys about from the original COPS N CROOKS DLC. Now, whilst Rockstar Games added the police outfits into the game with the Agents of Sabotage DLC back on December 10th, 2024, as you guys can see on screen, I actually made a video about this on the day of the DLC launch, as we all knew Rockstar Games were going to drip feed more content from the COPS N CROOKS DLC. However, Rockstar Games have still not released the police outfits, which are part of the drip feed content from the Agents of Sabotage DLC. So I don't want you guys getting confused when we talk about upcoming COPS N CROOKS DLC content that Rockstar Games will be adding into the game. This doesn't mean that we're going to be receiving a pure COPS N CROOKS DLC. As I just explained to you guys with the past 3 big DLCs, these haven't been a Cops N Crooks DLC, but they have featured a lot of the content from that cut DLC. I know a lot of you guys are disappointed that we're never going to see the full original Cops N Crooks DLC, as Rockstar Games are already starting to break it down, and we do know this DLC included over 800 game files, so it was going to be hands down the biggest DLC update that we would have ever seen in GTA Online. Now, with so much content still included in the Cops N Crooks DLC that Rockstar Games have yet to release into the game yet, with Rockstar Games including all of this policing content casually with any style of DLC, Rockstar Games can release the most random DLC, and it's more than likely, as you guys just saw by the evidence, we will be receiving more police/cop content, as it doesn't make sense for Rockstar Games to waste all of this content, especially since we're only 1 year away from GTA 6. A lot of their efforts are more targeted towards that game. However, we all know that Rockstar Games know how to milk a cow dry and move very sly when it comes to hype around a specific car or piece of content in GTA Online. They done this with the very first police car, if you remember back with the Chop Shop DLC, known as the Gauntlet Interceptor. This car had a ton of hype as players knew it was added into the game with the game files. However, because Rockstar Games knew this, they held it off right until the final week of drip feed content, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, to keep the player numbers higher in the game, hoping that this could be the week that Rockstar Games go ahead and drop this into the game. Now, with us finally receiving so much police content into the game, cars, weapons, a mini heist, and even free roam work, of course it makes sense for us now to have our character dress up as a police officer. Now, another thing that Rockstar Games will often include with every big DLC is a brand new property or business that we can go ahead and launch missions from. Now, with Rockstar Games finally releasing the police outfit soon, it would make sense for them, of course, to finally add the police station properties into the game. Now, Rockstar Games might have already hinted about this with the Bottom Dollar Bounties DLC, according to one of the most credible data miners in the GTA 5 community. So the first point he said was, the alt text is characters wearing law enforcement agent vests. They say bail enforcement though, could just be a goof. And for you guys that are getting confused on what he means by that, characters wearing law enforcement agent vests are different to bail enforcement. Bail enforcement can be a private business that basically works with the police, who of course are the law enforcement. And because this DLC will be including both bail enforcement and law enforcement, I can see that confusing a few people, and I can even see Rockstar Games playing with this a bit by maybe showing some of the thin lines the bounty hunters cross. Whilst they're very similar to the police, they are different. So maybe this is just a slip up from Rockstar Games, or we will be receiving both law enforcement vests and bail enforcement vests. However, the second point he makes is very, very interesting indeed. He says, and the bars seem to be similar to the Mission Row Police Department cells, but the large block on the door of the cells with matching walls is not visible. And he mentions he's talking about the far right cell has bars to the right not visible. He then goes on to say, as well as the object to the top left not being present in any of the cells. Conclusion: Mission Row Police Department is getting updated, or a new interior, pulling and slightly modifying some MRPD assets. And of course, MRPD standing for Mission Row Police Department. And then he does go on to show an image here, clearly showing exactly what he means. Now, why this is very, very interesting is because Yoshi went ahead and said this before the trailer dropped, and we knew the location was going to be directly opposite Mission Row Police Department. And of course, if you guys haven't clocked on by yet, this is the police department that I am currently walking all around. It would make sense for them to also make changes to the police department, and this wouldn't be the first time Rockstar Games have done this. Of course, they made a complete revamp of the casino building, which looked completely different prior to Diamond Casino update. However, I don't think we're going to be receiving anything close to a building change like that, but like he said, it is going to be more of an interior change, as we could be using the police station in many different aspects with this DLC. Even if we're a bounty hunter, when we capture a fugitive, we will have to bring them to a police station, similar to how you guys have probably seen Doug the Bounty Hunter do on the famous TV show. And also it could be used as a location to launch the brand new dispatch missions for Vincent. So it is very interesting to hear that one of the police stations will be receiving an update with this brand new DLC. And as always, if you do appreciate me keeping up to date with all of the latest GTA 5 news, all I ask is you do return the favor by dropping a like down below, and if you guys are new around here, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, as I do post daily GTA 5 videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.